Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the Dattie Podcast, and I am here with Kat Teo from Ink Heads out in Los Angeles, California. What's up, Kat?
What's good, Joey? It's good to finally be on here and talk to you live, man. It's awesome.
I know I've been a big fan of your work for several years. I know a couple years ago I messaged you and I said, Kat, you were one of the best artists in the country. Hands down, one of the best SMP artists in the country. I just didn't think you were getting the recognition you really deserve. But in my opinion, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Cat work.
Oh man, I appreciate that so much. It's one thing to to hear that from your clients. Your clients will always think you're the bomb because obviously they wouldn't. If they're coming to you, they believe in your work. But to hear it from other people in the industry, it means a lot. So I appreciate that, man. I'm honored.
No problem. I'm just telling the truth. So let's get into it. Where'd you grow up? Because I know you're not from LA, right?
No. So I was born in a little island called Tonga, which is down by Fiji and Samoa. So I was born down there, and then when I was adopted by my paternal grandparents, and then they took me to New Zealand when I was about 4 years old. My grandmother passed away when I was about five, and then my grandfather brought me to the States when I was six. And then from there, I was passed around from family member to family member, moved like 28 times before high school, went to like 14 different schools. So, but I mostly lived in California and in Hawaii. Yeah. So I ended up in Hawaii and then on Maui, on the island of Maui, and stayed there for like 14 years. And then finally moved to California to pursue my wife. I had met my wife on this trip and we were, we're talking back and forth. And finally I was like, all right, man, I need to go all in and move to Cali and see what's cracking.
So you said a bunch of things right there. I'm just going to pause so we can get back to it. So you were adopted by your paternal grandparents. So you were born in an island near Fiji, and Fiji looks awesome. So I'm assuming the island you were from is also beautiful as well. And so, what was the reason for the adoption? Did something crazy happen, or were you just trying? They were trying to give you a better life, or you want to go into it?
Yeah, so my mom and dad were they were young and they in their early 20s and basically it didn't work out. They had me out of wedlock. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was a businessman um, on the islands and was doing decent. So he was like, hey, we want to take the baby and just and adopt him. And my dad, to be honest, he was just a young dude at the time, and so he was fine with that. Like I think he was 22 or something like that, and definitely not anywhere near ready being married. And so yeah, my grandparents adopted me. But then, like I said, after we moved to New Zealand, my grandmother passed away. My grandfather brought me to America. And in our culture, so in the Tongan culture, it's like you can be raised by anyone in the family, and like family is like it's like God and then family, like that's how it is in our culture. So like there's not even a word for instance, cousin in my language. It's just brother or sister. So I have like 10,000 freaking, siblings basically. Yeah.
So, okay, so your grandfather's like, I recognize my son. He's immature, whatever the case might be. We're going to step up. We're going to take Cat, bring him to the island. So then you're living in New Zealand for what, 5 years? And then your grandmother passes away?
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily that my dad was immature. I just don't think he just wasn't ready to take a child yet. But yeah, that's essentially what happened.
Yeah.
My grandparents were like, hey, we'll adopt him, we'll take care of him. And so yeah, that's what happened.
I know all about that, man. My mom had me when she was 16, and
Wow.
my dad wasn't around
Wow.
like ever.
Yeah.
And basically I was raised by my grandmother as well.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I know a little bit about that, but I wasn't on a different island or anything like that. I just know
Yeah.
from, being here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then you said you were passed around 14 different schools. How was that? Was it just not working out with each relative, or?
So I mean, it wasn't that it wasn't working out. It's just that when I look back on it, that's a lot for a family to just like take a child, especially when you already have children and it's like, hey, can you watch my grandson for 6 months to a year or maybe 2 years, it's like that's a lot to take on, and so for me, I didn't know any different. I was just growing up, right? Did it suck? Oh, yeah. It was not easy. The 14 different schools, and in my mind, it kind of blurs together when I think of different grades, and so that's rough on a kid. What it did for me is that it taught me how to relate to anyone. Like I went to all white schools, all black schools, all Mexican, mixed schools, mostly Asian, rich schools, poor schools. And so I had to learn how to communicate with anyone like instantly. And so later on in life, I looked back and I was like, man, thank you, God, that you allowed me to have the journey that I had. I wouldn't change it, to be honest. I wouldn't want to live it again because it wasn't fun. But it gave me skills. It gave me life skills, and it gave me perspective. And it gave me, yeah, I think perspective is probably one of the most important words that I could use to describe it, because I was around a lot of people, a lot of different cultures, and was just able to observe, just life from different POVs, different cultures. Yeah.
What did you I completely get what you mean when you say now that you're an adult, you look back and you think, "Hey, can you come watch this kid for 6 months, 2 years?" 'Cause I think about that too. That's a big ask. That's a really big ask for someone, and it's a lot of responsibility, and especially when they already have kids, and obviously it costs money, and I assume, or I don't know if they were gonna be given any money for you to also, because that plays a factor as well.
So yeah, that's the thing in our culture. It's like my grandfather dropped me off. The first family I lived with was my uncle and aunt. They're actually my great uncle and aunt. So it's my grandfather's first cousin. And this is like a very like it's so outside of my culture. When I step outside of my culture and I look at my story, I'm like, how does that even work? Like, how do you just ask someone to take care of your kid, right? But in my culture, it's not weird. It's not out of the ordinary because we just do what we have to do for one another, right? If family is absolutely everything. And there's this thing of respect where literally in the family, it's mom, dad, and then the oldest sibling. And then if I'm 1 minute older than my twin brother has to listen to me simply because I'm older. And so my grandfather, who's older than his cousin, basically drops in and was like, "Hey, watch my grandson." And he was like,
Oh,
"Okay, copy."
even
You
pa
know?
after 18, they
Oh yeah,
still
dude.
stay
Oh
true to
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It's all the way till death. Like it's just that's how it is. It's like respect. So God, family, respect. That's how it flows in my culture. You just have to. There's a word for it. It's called talahui in my language. It means to disrespect an elder, and that could literally mean your older sibling. So yeah, it's just cultural roots run super deep. I'm married to a Latina, and our wedding was just like she didn't know what to do with. There was like we had this huge feast right after our wedding where like 300 of my family members showed up, and only her and her like parents and her siblings were there. So everyone else was from my family, and there was like 300 people there, 30 different tables, and at every table there was like a whole roasted pig, just surrounded by other like food from my culture. And she walked in and saw everything, and she was like, "I don't know what to do right now." She was just like, she's like, "I thought we had culture, like you guys put us to sleep." Yeah. So all that to say, in my culture, it's not like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you money, you know, watch my grandson or watch my son or whatever." It's like, no, okay, this is family, so we're gonna do what we got to do to take care.
A part of me respects that a lot. I like that philosophy, but I didn't grow up in it, so I can't I guess I've never been a part of it, yeah. But I do understand that, I would do, anything for my brother and my sister, and I've done a lot.
Now, just imagine if you had like 100 of them.
I'd have to say no a lot more.
That's the only difference.
Where did you end so you eventually got to Maui, beautiful island. I spent, 16 days there. And who did you end up staying with, until you were 14?
Yeah, so I finally ended up staying with my dad's sister, who my aunt, Lolita, she's basically my mom. Um,
Okay.
so part of my story is I never met my mom until I was like 29. I met her over the phone when I was 29 years old. So I had all these different parents or parental figures in my life, but I was never the son and I was never the sibling. I was always the cousin, nephew, or grandson. That was probably the hardest part of it, was just I had this deep desire to just belong to an immediate family, right? And so by the time I was 16 and a lot of my friends were doing what they do in high school, like I had this deep desire to just like be married and be a dad. I wanted the things that I didn't have. But I ended up with my dad's sister. She was everything to me. She just passed 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. I remember you posting about it and everything too, as well. How old are you, Kat?
How old do you think I am with this
I don't
SMP?
wanna guess. I don't
No,
wanna
yes. Look, look. Somebody,
I
some
assume we're about the same age. I'm 36. I
I
think you're
got you
somewhere
by
bet
a lot.
Really?
Yeah, this is the beauty of SMP, man. I'm 43.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you look great. You look freaking phenomenal. Good for you.
Somebody just like a couple months ago was like, "Are you 28?" I was like, "Oh, God bless you, sir. I wish I was 28." If you met me before SMP, you would definitely not guess at 28. Yeah. But no, yeah, I'm 43.
Good for you. You're taking care of yourself. You said you were 14 when you left Maui to come, or you stayed there for 14 years and then I guess you were 20?
So Maui, I consider my home because it was the first place I lived for longer than 3 to 6 months, basically. And so I stayed in one. I went to one high school, which is mind blowing for me. I was, because before high school, it was just like school after school after school after school. But I went to one high school, and so Maui was the place that, or is the place that I consider home. Yeah, but my wife and I, try to go back every year. It's been hard since COVID, but that's the place I call home.
Let me a little sidebar. How far away was your family home, your childhood home where you stayed all those years from those fires?
Oh man, thank you for asking about that. So the Lahaina fires so I grew up in Kihei. When you fly into Maui, you land in Kahului, and which is on the kind of like, it's in the center of the island. Kihei is in the south side and Lahaina is on the west side. So Lahaina is about 45 minutes away. I have friends that lost homes, but fortunately for me, I don't know anyone personally who passed away, although I have friends of friends who passed away. But that was a devastating time for me. Last year, I actually had a class set up that I was supposed to teach on Maui, and I was super pumped for it. And the fires happened on Thursday, and my class was supposed to be on Saturday. I was flying out, and so literally, obviously, I had to call them and say, hey, we're gonna cancel the class. I didn't give a crap about the class at the time. I spent like 2 days crying. Like it was so rough for me because like that's my home, and knowing my friends lost their homes, and it was just yeah, that was tough.
And it doesn't seem like the US government is doing that much to help out, at least from what I've seen. Yeah, I think they gave them like $800 per family or something.
I think The Rock and Oprah did more than the government. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that was a tough season, and I didn't even personally go through it, but just it was heartbreaking for me just talking to my friends, watching everyone post videos, watching, like, I grew up surfing in that town, and going there all the time for food and for family, for church, for like all different types of things. And to see the devastation, I mean, it looked like a movie. When you look at those videos and you watch how metal melted, I'm like, how did that happen? It happened so quickly, it happened overnight. The 80% of the town burned to the ground. It's like, what? Like, how did that happen?
And do they know how it started? I haven't seen anything on the origination of the fire. Do they know how it started yet?
Yeah, I'm not a conspiracy dude. There's so many
Oh,
conspiracies.
there's a lot. The blue
There's
the blue roofs, the blue roofs.
Yeah,
See
freaking
that
laser
one?
laser from the sky and all this stuff, and I'm just like, and that, it to be honest, it really pissed me off when people were talking about it during as it was happening, and people were DMing me. People that I didn't even know were DMing me like, "Hey, do you think the laser's real?" I'm like, "Bro, get the hell out of my DM. This is my freaking home. Don't don't hit me up with your stupid conspiracy theory. Like, have some decency and care. Like, if you're not gonna give or pray, then get out of my DM and stop talking to me." Because I was like heartbroken for people whose lives were being shattered or losing their lives. My friend and her 70 something year old mom waited in the water for 8 hours on a log because they couldn't make it back to land. Imagine being with your 70-year-old mom, dude, like in the
And
water
just
for
trying to keep her, afloat,
yeah,
and she's gotta keep her
exactly.
strength. Obviously, they're not
Yeah.
eating. That's insane. That
So
is
I'm like,
insane.
come on, dude, get out of here with your stupid theories.
I hope none of the conspiracies are real because that's horrible, if
Right.
that, you know what I mean? Who
Yeah.
does
It's
that?
I saw footage the day before. Somebody had posted footage the day before of crazy winds going through. There was a storm passing by the islands, right? So there were like 80 mile an hour plus winds that were hitting Lahaina side, and I saw footage of like these telephone poles, and the wires were like 3 feet from the ground, 2 feet from the ground, like it had started sagging, and I'd never seen that before. So some of these poles were being pushed over. My guess is that one of those lines hit the ground, sparked, started a fire, and that's how it happened. That's you know what I mean?
It's a
I
plausible theory.
Right.
Very
Highly
realistic.
doubt that NASA sent a laser from one of their satellites to friggin' burn down.
I hope
It's
not. I hope not.
I don't even know what, tell me about the blue roof thing. Tell me about that. I don't even know.
The blue roof was what I saw because, and I did see what The Rock said on Joe Rogan podcast and Oprah's thing. So they were saying that these people who have, because for people who don't know, in Hawaii, not every $1 million home is like a big mansion. It could be like a ranch style little house that it's worth $1 million because of the location. It's in Maui. But so these real big mansions for the rich, ultra rich out there, they painted the roofs blue, and so the conspiracy is that they only burned around the blue homes. Like they didn't want those houses with blue roofs to burn down. And the theory goes that eventually they're going to buy out all these people who've lived there, for hundreds and thousands of years. And the rich people are going to buy them out and use that land. I hope that's not true. I hope everybody gets their spot. You pay for insurance, rebuild their home on their property like you're supposed to.
That's so stupid because if you're from Maui and you understand, like there most of those blue roofs are so I used to be a roofer.
Oh, shit.
So on Maui, yeah. And so a lot of those blue roofs are metal corrugated roofs that are super cheap, like roofs on a lot of not so expensive homes. And maybe if you're talking about like Japanese glazed tile blue roofs, but that's not a ton. So I think that's a really dumb theory.
Hopefully it's not true. Hopefully none of it's true.
Hopefully none of it's true. What matters to me is the people that passed away and the families that lost their homes. That's what matters
They
to me.
lost everything.
Everything. Freaking everything. So
I really do hope that they're taken care of. I feel like they should make that process as easy as possible, going through, because there's going to be a lot of legal crap they got to deal with. They should get their money. So you so then which part of California did you go to when you moved over?
yeah, so I was brought to first to the Bay Area, Palo Alto area, and then but that was only for a little bit, and then I ended up in Sacramento. That Sacramento is where I stayed for the first 2 years. So that was first, second, and a little bit of third grade. So I was in Sac for a while, and then I moved around to Arizona, and then the Bay Area, and then back to Sacramento and all over Sacramento. So yeah, mostly Northern California.
Okay. And so when you get out of high school, do you immediately go to California or do you stay in Hawaii a little bit longer, try to go pro surfer?
No, so after high school, I actually came back to Cali. Yeah, I went to a small Bible college actually in Northern California, Scotts Valley. So after high school.
What did you go to the Bible college for?
So when I was 17, so I grew up in church, right? And my like Christianity is like a deep part of our culture ever since the missionaries came in the like 1700s or 1800s or whatever it was. And so our Tonga is a sovereign nation, but we are definitely a Christian nation. And so I grew up in the church. I was forced to go to church and I knew how to play the game very well. And so I just did what I had to do because I knew that that's what was required of me in terms of, if you didn't want to catch a beat down, you're going to go to church. Right. And so I did all of that growing up. But at the age of 17, one night at church, I had like an encounter with God that changed everything for me. That was like, it made God like a personal thing. Like it changed it from a religion to a relationship. And so I then wanted to know God for myself. I wanted to understand who he was for me, and not because my uncle and aunt told me to go to church or my pastor told me to go to church, but like I really loved Jesus. And so I wanted to go to Bible college to like learn more about him and to make him known. That story is a lot longer, and there's some crazy miracles that are intertwined with all of it. But I don't know if we have the time to get into all that. We can if you want to, but that's why I was at Bible college.
Put that on a different episode, because I'd love to know how it came to fruition for you. Unless you want Can you give unless you wanna give, like, a high level summary, or is there any way you can condense it, do you think?
In terms of like, how did I get there? Like,
No, like, I guess you said it became physical for you. I get
oh, you're talking about the experience itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Experience. Yeah. So June 2nd, 1997. I was 17 years old. How old were you?
June 2nd, 19 I was 10.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 7 years old. Yeah. So I was 17. I was at church. I was playing the guitar, part of the worship team, right? So my pastor was giving an invitation for people to come to know God, anyone who wanted to like come into a relationship with Jesus. And now, mind you, I've grown up, I'm familiar with the language, I understand the theology of it. But as my pastor is giving this invitation, suddenly I hear God for the first time in my life. And it's not an audible voice, right? It's not like James Earl Jones. I compare it to a thought, a really loud thought in my chest. Like it sounded almost like my own voice, really loud in my chest. And the words were, "You're not fooling me." With these words came the deepest sense of unconditional love that I've ever felt in my life. Like there was zero judgment with it. There was zero like, I'm disappointed in you. I'm da 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 da, this and that. It was like, it was just, "You're not fooling me." And the sense that I got was like, choose one or the other, because I gave off the impression. Oh, and then I saw this vision. This is gonna get crazy. I saw this vision of like a can of Coke, like a can of Coca-Cola, but inside of it was urine. And I knew that that's how my life was, because I was advertising something on the outside, but I was something else on the inside. Something disgusting, something not real, something not lining up with, like, I was part of the Christian club at school, and I was, on the worship team at church, and I did all the right things on Sunday in front of my pastor, in front of my uncle and aunt, and all these different things. But behind the scenes, I was living a completely different life. It was not lining up with what scripture talks about. And the point that God was making was not that, it wasn't a judgmental thing. He was just saying, choose. Like he's saying, I respect authenticity and integrity. If you want to do your thing, then do your thing, but please don't represent me, or please don't act like you're living for me when we both know you're not fooling me. And dude, I fell on the ground and wept for like 2 hours, because I just felt this unconditional love. I don't know how else to explain it, but I grew up battling abandonment and rejection, having no father, no mother, no siblings. At this point, I hadn't met my mom yet, right? Like I don't meet her till I'm 29, but I'm like just a lost 4-year-old kid searching for love. And I encountered this love in Jesus that changed everything for me, dude. Absolutely everything. And to this day, it's the deepest, most real thing in my life, and the most important thing to me that I wouldn't trade anything for. It's the reason why I handle my business the way that I handle my business. It's the reason why I love my wife the way I love my wife, or treat people the way that I treat people. And I'm far from freaking perfect, man. I have my problems and whatever, but the point is that when I encountered this love, it nothing else satiated it. I was on a bunch of different drugs at the time. I quit all of it, not because it was religious, but because I just didn't need it anymore. I would party hard from 13 to 17, wake up the next morning and be like, is this it? Like, what else is there? It was just empty. And the way the scriptures say it is like in the book of Ecclesiastes, it talks about eternity is in the heart of all men. So if you can imagine a bottomless pit that's in your heart, and most people were trying to put money, sex, drugs, success, family, we're trying to stuff it in that eternal hole. For me, nothing was big enough to fill that bottomless pit until I truly encountered God, who's big enough to fill that eternal hole in my heart. It's that reason that like a year later, I was like, I'm going to go to Bible college. And that's a whole other story. But yeah, that's why I
Wow.
pursued
Wow,
that.
thank you for sharing that. So you're saying that because I had never had an experience like that, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I find it very fascinating. I do know what it's like to feel like, no one loves you or accepts you. I do
yeah.
know that feeling, and it's not good, especially when you're a kid because you don't even know any better.
No,
As an adult, a lot of us sometimes our actions will make people not wanna be around us, right? But as a
yeah,
kid, you just can almost expect to be loved by your parent or whoever the case might be. It's a horrible feeling, so I'm really happy you were able to have that, epiphany, awakening, whatever you wanna call it, and
yeah,
feel that eternal love, fill that void that you were describing. Um, that's whatever works, which is able to so after that moment, were you then like, "I gotta change my life"? You start saying you're not gonna do any drugs anymore. Is that when you start to take shit serious?
yeah, dude. I had a 1.4 GPA before that. Like that, so that happened summer of my junior year. I had a 1.4 GPA, bro. I went back to school next semester. I had a 4.0.
Wow.
Simply
Wow.
because I was like, I'm gonna honor my teachers. I'm gonna do my homework. I'm gonna care about like what authority tells me, like I just started taking what the scriptures teach seriously. And I was wanting to walk with God for me, again, for myself, not because, and dude, you could ask my friends at school, they're like, bro, like, who the hell are you? Like, why are you talking about Jesus all the time? And like, I was a different person, completely different person, because I felt like I understood how bankrupt I was emotionally and spiritually. For me, how I now encountered this incredible, I think the deepest need that every human has is to know that they're unconditionally loved. That's my opinion, but it's like, why do billionaires kill themselves? Why is Jim Carrey saying, I wish everyone could experience fame and fortune for one day so that they could see that it's not everything that it's cracked up to be? Why are the rich and famous constantly searching for something else and higher? And to be honest, because I'm here in LA and I hear a lot of stories, they're constantly searching for something spiritually higher. And so for me, I recognize that like this love that I encountered, I have never encountered anything greater since. And so it's like the main puzzle piece in the center of my life where everything else, all the other puzzle pieces can connect to it. It's from that place that I could live and have my being. If you remove that from me, like I'm not sure what I would do. I would probably fall apart because I understood what it was to be broken and to be empty and to be without that knowledge, and I wouldn't trade it.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. I'm glad you had that experience. I really am, because I'm sure it's molded you, and set your trajectory for the rest of your life to the course of where you are right now. So, how old were you when you met your wife?
I met her when I was 27.
27, okay, and you
Yeah.
said you were like, kinda online talking for a few years?
Well, we no, we were texting. We blowing up each other's. We had to change our phone plans because we were constantly texting, just like thousands and thousands of text messages all the time. But I met her actually on a missions trip down here in Southern California. Yeah, we were both 27, and when when I met her, dude, my wife's freaking gorgeous, and there were so many dudes trying to get at her at the time, and I was like, this chick is way out of my league. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna let me try to be best friends with her, and so we're talking all the time, either call on the phone or mostly texting. But over the course of 3 years, we basically became best friends. And there was the moment where I knew I was the idiot dude in a rom-com movie where I was either going to lose the girl or I had to make a major move. And so finally I was like, "Hey, I like you. What can we do?" And she was like, "What the hell took you so long?" Because apparently she had liked me for a while, and I was too insecure, man. I just didn't think
Wow.
I had the goods. I had hair then, so I looked a lot different, but nevertheless, she had a lot of guys that were, trying to get at her at the time, and I was just like, I don't know. I'm gonna try to be her best friend, and it ended up paying off real nicely for me.
And everybody wants to marry their best friend, right?
True.
That's the goal. I think your strategy was smart. You said, don't come on strong, and just keep playing, be the friend,
Yeah.
and it worked out in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think if I had to do it over again, I just would have been more honest with her in the beginning, or like a lot earlier, I would say.
Do you think it would have still worked out though?
I think
Because
so.
would Okay.
I think so. I mean, the timing of everything, looking back at it, worked out the way it should have. But I mean, if I was given another chance, I don't know that I would have waited so long to just be honest with her.
Okay, what kind of work did you do before you got into you said you did some roofing, but what else did you do?
Are you familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality test?
Of course, I'm an ENFJ.
I'm an ENFP.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
We're very close.
Yeah. Yeah, except you have a lot more order than I do, right? Like, I'm more, like, free flow. Like, if you read the profile of an ENFP, it says they can have many careers in their life. Dude, I have done everything. I mean, worked in restaurants, I was a roofer. I did all different styles of construction, from electrical to framing to flooring. And then I dabbled in real estate for a while. And then get this one, I was in aerospace engineering for 7.5 years.
Yeah, you don't just fall into that. How does that happen? I just happened to get in there.
Yeah, there's that. No. So, oh my gosh, what a crazy story that was. My wife's cousin is computer engineer, and he was a part of this company that wrote maintenance manuals for in-flight entertainment systems. And I was just hanging out with him one day. He basically just out of the blue, he was like, "Hey man, what are you doing for work right now?" And I was just like, "Oh man, I'm struggling trying to do real estate or whatever. And it's like not working out." He's like, "Man, you should try and get, he's like, I can help you get a spot in our company, just like just to help you out, like a starter spot or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm not a prideful dude." I was like, "I'll try anything. It doesn't matter. I just, I want to pay my bills and feed my family." Long story short, he ended up getting me a position there at the company. And little by little, I was able to work my way up to where by the time I left, I had taken over the spot of one of the main engineers there. Meaning I freed him up to do other stuff. By the time I left, I had trained this young dude who had just graduated with an aerospace engineer degree, trained him for like 8 months to take over my position. So I'm super proud of that because I came into the industry not understanding anything. There's like 10,000 freaking acronyms in aerospace. And so the first day I'm sitting there on like sitting in front of my computer knowing nothing. And this guy walks up next to me and he's like speaking to another guy at the next desk. And he's just like, "Hey, I need all the PCBs for every LRU on this OMM and I need them by the end of day." And I was like, "What the hell did this guy just say? Like, what is he talking about?" And what's crazy is that just over the first 2 years was kind of like my introduction to that whole world, learning how to read like Airbus and Boeing engineering drawings, putting them together for our engineers. What happened is I just started to learn just by being around it, just understand the language, understand how to do what they were doing. And obviously you have to go to school to become an engineer, but they created a position for me called engineering analyst. And so my main job was tracing power from, when you sit down on a plane, you have your smart display, right? So tracing power from the display back to the panel on the plane and documenting that into our system so that these maintenance manuals could be produced that were necessary from like FAA like regulations. In order for planes to even take off, they have to have certain manuals on the plane. And so my that was my job. My job was like scouring Airbus and Boeing engineering drawings all day long, and then transferring that to our database.
That is a time-consuming, and I'm assuming not very exciting job.
No, the exciting part for me was learning it, because I was like, dude, they created a position for me called engineering analyst. Again, because I wasn't an engineer. And I was super proud of the fact that I learned this really hard thing. Man, it was like learning Chinese, dude. You know, just this completely foreign thing that I had no grid for, but I stuck with it. And you know, that, and I've also been doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for a lot of like last 18 years. Besides Jiu Jitsu, that's the thing I'm most proud of, is going into that job and not giving up and pressing through this hard like thing coming out the other end feeling like, wow, I did it. And they didn't fire me because I was an idiot.
I know all about that. I know all about that. It's
Yeah.
so weird. I have another thing in common with you where I also worked at a geotechnical engineering firm for a couple
Oh wow.
years, and I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. And I know what you mean when it's like it can be boring, but it's fun learning it. And when you start to figure shit out, you're like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
So why did you end up like I'm sure you had to have contemplated in your head 50 times, you know, should I just go to school to be an engineer, to advance my career? I like this stuff. What ultimately deterred you?
No, I knew that anything that I needed to learn for the job that I was doing, like I could tap into people around me. This is the beauty of community. In that, in this situation, is it's work community, right? Like, so I placed myself around the guys that I knew I could learn from, and I like every day when I was actually working to get the position of engineering analyst, because I started out as document control, which is basically printing engineering drawings. That's pretty much it. And then placing them in order, learning how to read the bill of materials, so that you could put them in the correct order. Just placing myself around the right people in order to learn to move up. I knew that I could do that. And so I would stay after work, like work would end at 3:30, and like Luis, he was like one of the like main engineers there. He'd be walking out and be like, hey Luis, show me this real quick, can you show me on your way out, can you show me this? And he would take like 5 minutes to show me something on the computer, and then I would just sit there for 5-6 hours and work it and learn it and like really understand it. And then the next day I'd ask him a different question. I did that for months until I basically learned his job.
Wow, wow.
And then I went to my manager. I was like, "Hey, I can do this." And he was like, "Really?" Because they were trying to hire someone to take Luis's spot so that he could do other things. It was never working. They couldn't find someone that was a good fit for the company. And so when the CEO found out that I learned how to do it, she was like, "What?" And she was so pumped. She gave me this huge raise and sent me and my wife to Maui for a week, fully paid. Like she was so stoked.
Shut up. That's so cool.
Yeah, so
She
it
gave
was
you a vacation and a pay
she gave me a
raise?
vacation, yeah, yeah. So, because she just saw initiative, and she saw like, and she was thankful. She was thankful because I already understood the company culture, and also, let's be real, she didn't have to pay as much for an actual engineer. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
even
yeah.
like I had a nice pay bump, but it definitely wasn't, what it would have been had I had a degree.
Okay, and that's very interesting, and that's awesome. You took initiative, took on projects, you kept learning, you pushed yourself, you moved up, no experience, and you self-taught yourself basically. I mean, they teach you, but then you self-taught yourself. Why didn't you stick with it?
SMP. So
Really?
yeah. Oh, so I skipped one career before engineering. I tattooed for 5.5 years.
Oh shit. Real tattoos?
Yeah. Normal tattoos. Yeah. And so towards the end of my season at this company, at the engineering company, I was looking for something to to fix my bald problem. And then I stumbled upon SMP, and it was my wife actually who saw that you could get certified in it. She was like, "Hey, you should look at getting this done." And so she found Jeff's page, and she's like, "Hey, this guy's going to be training here in LA. You should, look at taking this class." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So I was still working at my other company, and I took the class, and basically it was like a 9-month overlap where finally came to the point where I was like, because of COVID, like they started letting people go. And so me and a bunch of other people got let go. Literally the day after I got let go, Jeff hit me up and was like, "Hey man, you wanna come work with me in my LA shop?" I was like, yeah. And so yeah, it was just like perfect. I call it God timing, it's perfect. And so
Wow.
that's how I transitioned over.
So let's back up there. So did your wife tells you about SMP, you
No,
research it,
I found it. I
okay.
think
Did you get it done or did you do training first?
No, no, no. I got training first. We only had enough money to do one or the other, and I was like, "I'm gonna invest in me. I'm
Mm.
gonna invest in my skills because I know that if I learn how to do it, I can get it done later." And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I did. So took the class, and I was doing all these freebies and models for essentially 9 months. And I was posting, and Jeff would see my stuff, and he basically hit me up. He's like, "Bro, you're getting good." Because that guy trains a lot of people, and a lot of people. And I'm saying I might be the only student he ever hired, but I think there was another girl before me that
Like to
he.
come work in his shop, and this was not
Yes,
when he was in, because he was in Chicago, right, for a little bit, and this is his LA shop?
his LA shop. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Which I ended up being like the kind of the manager and like the point artist there. He brought on another girl after me, but for the most part, I kind of ran the shop because he was traveling a bunch, and so if he, let's say, needed a second or third session done on one of his clients, he would just send them to me. But for the most part, I was doing all my own clients at that point at his shop.
Now was he bringing in the leads, or did you have to do that yourself?
That was him. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So now it's me. Speaking of which, I don't think I've officially even talked about this yet, but as of last November, I said thank you to Jeff. Him and I are great friends, by the way, still. But I just told him, "Hey man, I'm gonna be just going on my own and getting my own little shop." And so I started Ink Heads late last year, and so I'm no
Congratulations. That's
thank you, thank you.
awesome. Very, 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 very cool.
So I'm no longer with Picasso, even though I love that guy, man. Jeff is a brother to me, and I owe everything in my career to him and Leaders Academy, which also allowed me to become a master trainer under them. But yeah, it just felt like it was time for me to do that, and he was super gracious. He was like, "Man, good for you. I'm happy for you." And so yeah,
That's what I love to hear. I love to hear that he's happy for you moving on.
yeah, he's a good dude.
So where's your new shop at?
So my new shop is in Santa Monica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Wilshire and 6th Street in Santa Monica. It's right next to the 3rd Street Promenade, so really close to the ocean. So it's really cool. Yeah, it's
I
tiny.
was
It's
just in Santa Monica. I was just there in September. My friend lives over there.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I got engaged on the Santa Monica Pier.
No way. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I'm right there, near the ocean, and I love it. My shop is so tiny. It's nothing like the spot that we had with Picasso. That studio that we had over there on Highland was, oh my gosh.
Looked like a
There's
warehouse,
Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
yeah.
It had the coolest
But it was
vibe.
huge. It was like
Yeah.
huge ceilings, right? Like a
Yeah.
warehouse type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
multiple levels.
You gotta start somewhere, man. When you get your own place, you gotta start somewhere. And guess what? Now you're gonna have really high-end clientele. I mean, Santa Monica is where the money's at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. And so I'm in this little shoebox, but it's my shoebox.
Yeah. So, do you still use all Ghost products?
Yeah, I'm still sponsored by Ghost. Yeah. And so yeah, for the most part, I love Ghost. I've got no hate towards other pigments. It's just what I've known and what I've used. And I've tried a few other ones, but I'm very used to Ghost, and they've been real good to me. They've been a great sponsor. Shout out to
What need
Ghost.
shout to Ghost. What I've used Ghost, by the way. It is good. It is good. I even use their neutralizer.
Dude, their neutralizer, I will say this is me as an artist, not me as a sponsored Ghost guy, right?
Mhm.
As an artist, I use Ghost neutralizer with every freaking, like, every procedure that I do, because it neutralize, like, on lighter skin it neutralizes the blues, and on darker skin it neutralizes the greens, right? So you don't want pigment turning green on dark skin, and you don't want it turning blue on lighter skin. And I've just learned that, hey, you have to neutralize it. Using straight black for me is no longer something that I do. It's just I don't want that coloring.
I agree, and you should always add obviously add the water, add more distilled water, to it. But yeah, the straight black, that's a no-no. If you've made it this far in the podcast, people, do not just use straight black. Do not do
Please, for the love of God.
it. Add the water. So let me ask you this. So now that we're in the SMP conversation, I just want to recap on that. So you were with Jeff. So I guess how long total were you with Picasso Jeff? What is the name of his shop? I don't know what the name.
It's just Picasso SMP, or Picasso Scalp Micropigmentation.
So how long were you with them for total, do you think?
So from 2020 until last year in November.
Wow, so solid 3 years.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you were doing it where? Out of like your house, apartment or something before you got hired on?
No, so there was or there is like permanent makeup salon that's here in Santa Monica, that they do like a $50, like a rental fee. So like you could basically rent out a chair, right? It's super professional looking spot, and basically every time I would go in, it would be $50. And so I would just kind of put that on my models, be like, hey, I'm doing this like $5,000 procedure. You take care of this $50 fee, then that would, then I'll do the procedure for free, basically. And if you're listening right now and you're a new artist, I just dropped a gem on you, because you don't want to be doing a $3,000 to $5,000 procedure in your garage. It's not a good look. And so do what I did. Find a local PMU shop that will rent out a seat that looks professional, so it's professional for your models and your clients that you're doing freebies for, but also you could take pictures that is in a professional space, and that's going to help you grow a lot quicker. Because you can, like, I used to tattoo out of my house, but tattooing and SMP are two completely different things in the eyes of the world. Although technically we know it's essentially the same thing, essentially the same materials and machines and all of that stuff. But I'm in terms of, SMP is permanent makeup, and tattooing is just not seen as the same level. And so that's why we get to charge the higher prices. All this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also well, I think it's good that you're saying it, to be honest. It's also people are accepting the risk, right? That's also why it's expensive. It looks easy. Like everyone you've trained, I've trained people who see it from it looks easy. So, "Oh, you're just making dots. Dot, 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 dot." It's once you're in there, it's way more difficult. Way more because it's all about keeping the exact pressure, the same pressure. Boom, boom, boom. So do you think your 5, 6 years of tattooing before this helped you?
Oh, 100%. That was a cheat code, man, because I was used to skin. I was used to the 3-point stretch, right? Like, stretching the skin. I was used to the machine. I was used to the pigment. It wasn't hard for me to, like, I wasn't nervous, basically. I wasn't nervous about, like, doing my first procedure, because it was like, this is the same thing. The technique is different, right? In tattooing, you're pulling lines or shading, whip shading or circular shading with the different needle configuration. SMP is just the same machine, same needles, you're just dotting.
Yep, yep, and in a different pattern, right? But what I will say, but with SMP, everything's freehand for the most part, right?
Yeah.
We're not really tracing anything. We don't. At least
Yeah,
I
well,
don't.
there are like OG dudes out there who they'll freehand draw a stencil onto a client, I never did that. I always printed out my stencils and made sure that it was like, perfectly placed on the skin, and then traced it, but there are some super good artists out there who will freehand, and they take kind of pride in that. Yeah, I just wasn't willing to risk that.
Oh, I get it. I get it. So you break away from Jeff. Congratulations. You have Ink Heads now in Santa Monica, California, which is a
Mhm.
great location. Who cares that it's a little smaller? You'll move up when the time is ready. But the reason you're able to do this is because you're so talented. And one of the things that I've noticed is your natural hairlines are phenomenal. How do you approach the natural hairline? Are you starting up higher and then kind of moving down second session, third session? Are you doing the triangles, mountains, whatever you want to call them? How do you approach it?
Thank you, by the way. I appreciate that. Yeah, my natural hairlines, that's you know, I learned everything from Jeff. Jeff was the guy that when I first found SMP, I'm not gonna say who I who it was that I found, but I showed it to my wife, and she was like, "No." She looked at it and she was like, "That does not look good." And thinking back on it, when I look back at the photo that I showed her, I'm like, "Oh my god, what was I thinking?" But I was thinking as a bald guy. I wasn't thinking as an artist, right? I was like, "Oh, they can do something about it." And so it was like, "Okay, so it
I'll
doesn't
take
look."
anything.
Yeah, I was like, "Take anything." Exactly, but thank God my wife has really high standards, and so she was like, "Hell no, no. You're not getting this done." Literally, like, I think it was, like, 6 months later, she walks up to me and she's like, "Hey, check this guy's workout." And she's like, "Look how natural it looks." And I'm like, "Whoa, who is this?" And it was Jeff. And so Jeff is the one that schooled me on the natural hairline. And essentially our approach is you see, what's funny to me, and I'll throw this out there, is that you'll see new artists who draw like they'll have the bottom hairline, but then they'll have the 1 inch dotted hairline above, or the 1 inch dotted line above that, and then they do like a edge up. And I'm like, that's not the point. That's not the point of having the 1 inch dotted line above, right? The whole
But it
point.
looks cool on
It
Instagram.
looks great on Instagram, right? But for the client who doesn't know, it's completely pointless to have that when you're doing an edge up, because the point of that 1 inch is to start your fade, right? And you can change that from. I'll drop a little secret that I use. So for me, I don't like doing hard lines. If someone comes to me and they want an edge up, I'll talk them into what I call a soft edge up, which is basically like a natural hairline and an edge up had a baby. And so I'll take my 1 inch and I'll drop it down to like a 1/4 inch. And so that way it's soft and broken up. And I have examples on my Instagram, but like to me, it looks way more natural than the straight dots right next to each other. And that's not going to be age appropriate when you're like 70.
I completely agree with you in everything you just said. And my problem is I'll try to talk them out of it, but some people are very adamant. They're like, I don't care. I want the straight line edge up. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do.
I have one rule, dude, and that is if you're a white guy and you want to edge up, you're not getting it from me. I just won't do it, man. I just won't do it because I have like I'm
It
not.
definitely doesn't look as good. It
No,
definitely
I'm
doesn't
just
look
not
as
gonna feel
good.
good about myself because usually it's younger dudes who want it, right? And I'm like, you're thinking of it like a.
You're 25, bro.
Yeah, you're 25 and you're thinking of it like a haircut. This is not a haircut, right? The point of this is to make it look like you woke up in the morning, shaved your head, and went to work, not like you went to your barber and got edged up, right? That's a completely different thing, and you will not want this when you're 65. You will not want this. You're not going to want to look like you just came from the club and you're trying to hang out with your grandson. Like,
Yeah.
trust me. Right? If you're Puerto Rican or black, it'll fit you into your older age. But I'm just saying, and I'm not a racist dude. I'm just saying, like for Caucasian guys, I'm gonna shut you down immediately if you ask me for an edge up.
I think that's a very reasonable concern, Kat. It's a very reasonable because at minimum, give your hard suggestion. tell them
Yeah.
examples, you should be
Yeah.
able to talk them out. I completely agree with that. And I call it, I like how you said it, made a baby. I call it the natural straight hairline.
There you go.
Same thing, and I'll even use a smaller needle right below it if I have to
Yeah.
give that softer look. I'll go down to the
Yeah.
L4 or something. Now you used to did you do a lot of the traveling when those guys were out? They're in a different country, I feel like every 2 weeks. I can't keep up with Jeff. I mean, he's killing it, and, Masood and all them guys.
Yeah.
Ivan, I think, even goes out there a lot too. Did you
Yeah.
did you ever go with them, or did you just do the classes in LA?
Yeah, last year it really opened up for me internationally. I went with Jeff and Ivan. We did a class in Barcelona, and then that opened up Serbia for me in early last year, and then I did a class with Jeff in Canada, and then after Serbia, I did a class with Jeff in Croatia. And then last year in December, I did a class by myself in Vietnam. And so
Wow.
this year I have Greece, and so I have Athens coming up, Dubai, and Croatia, Slovenia, a few other countries that just haven't been locked in yet.
Let me ask you this, how does your wife feel about when you go? Does she come with you?
No, I wish, man. I wish. And it's hard because we have two little fur babies right now. They're these 10-pound little mulchi poos, Maltese Chihuahua poodles. There are kids, and it's hard to find a sitter for them. Like we spoil the crap out of them, so it's just hard. Yeah, it's hard to kind of work that up. But also, the traveling for work, to me, it's simply that. It's work, man.
You're on a
Like,
mission.
I'm not on out in these countries, like, living my best life. That's not me. Like, certain people, if I'm going to a different country, I'm flying in to teach a class, to love on people, and to go home. I'm not there to spend money. I'm there to make money for my
That's
family and
right. I love
get home.
that.
That's it. So it's not a vacation. Dude, when I went to Serbia, I flew into Nikolai Tesla Airport, went straight to my hotel, spent like 4 or 5 days there teaching. I walked like 2 blocks one night to grab some food, mostly ate at the hotel. When it was done, I got in a taxi, went back to the Nikolai Tesla Airport, and flew home. I didn't see
Wow.
Jack. I didn't see Jack in Serbia, and people were like, "You went all the way to Serbia and didn't see anything?" I was like, "No, dude. I'm trying to build my business. I'm not trying to spend all the money I make."
Yeah, yeah.
There'll come a time for that, and they'll hopefully one day I'll have, like, ink heads all over the world, and then I can just take my wife and travel. But this is not the time. This is the building
Yeah,
time.
I think that's exactly what you should do because you can get caught up doing something you shouldn't do or just spending money where you shouldn't, and or even, different countries have different rules. You can get yourself in trouble as well, And
Yeah.
Serbia, I think, is, I don't know how they feel about Americans too much, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know they're tough. They're tough people over there. To be able to do all these trainings, I mean, he must have the best SEO company in the world. And I know it's not one of the people messaging everyone listening saying, I can get you 20 leads for $45 and blah, 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 blah. I don't know if you get those,
Yeah.
but I do. I still get them. And nothing, and I've talked about this many times. No offense to the people who are hustling, they're trying to get you know, they're trying to get new clients so you could do more marketing for it. It's just I've had a strategy that's been working for me for a number of years, so I'm just not really looking to sign on anyone new, because this is what works for me.
Yeah. I would say a lot of, in my estimation, a lot of what opens up the doors for Jeff is he's got a great following. So he's got, I don't know, like almost 50,000 followers. And a lot of those people are people in the industry worldwide. And so people see what he's doing, people see him traveling and teaching. And so that it just opens up doors. I just started traveling last year, and it's already opened up doors for me, in terms of people inquiring, like, hey, could you come teach and this and that. And so and I'm nowhere near. I have like 1%. I got like 4,000 followers. It's like nothing. But Jeff has a really wide reach, and I'll say this: he's really good at his personal brand. You know what I mean? Like I will say, dude, one thing I respect about you is you're so not afraid to be who you are, and like you stand out from the crowd, like of where most SMP artists to me, they come from like one of two camps: SMP artists who are trying to be millionaires, and then there's the other guys who are just kind of focusing on their work. Like you're separate and you're your own like hilarious dude. And I just love, first of all, congratulations on your your business, your podcast, like all of this stuff, man. And it's just, I love that you are your own person, which is
Thank you.
awesome, because you definitely stand out from the crowd for sure. And I love that about you. And I always have. But I think that within the camp that Jeff falls into, he's really good. Like I love his aesthetic. He has very high standards for how like his videos look and things like that. And so all of that adds to when there are people wanting to bring in trainers, they find him, and I don't know that it's necessarily SEO. Maybe it is, maybe, but I know that he's got
So you
a,
think it's a lot of, like, networking connections,
yes,
say
yeah,
okay. And that makes sense, and I think that's way stronger than SEO. That's way strong. You already know, "Hey, I own a shop in Japan, and we're looking to,
hmm,
get your knowledge, come train here. We'll bring in models, we'll bring in all these people, we'll pay you."
yeah,
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense.
yeah. Because like the only way that international training opened up for me was because I did the class in Barcelona, and I one of the students was a guy from Croatia who owns a PMU shop with his wife, and he was like, "Hey, can you come teach a class in Serbia?" And I was like, "Sure." I went there. That opened up Vietnam, that open, so it's like, and that was just me and my tiny little world last year. Like Jeff's been doing this for a lot longer with a lot bigger reach, and he's known by a lot more people. So it's a snowball effect once you get to a certain level, I think. And he's there, me. I know that I have the goods, like in terms of I know how to train and I know how to do the procedure. It's just a matter of just get putting myself out there more and getting known. And so that's what I'm working on right now, is just trying to build that. I hope that didn't come off arrogantly in any way. I'm very self
No,
aware.
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't at all. You're
I'm
just
very
being
self
honest.
I'm very self-aware. I know what I'm good at and I know what I suck at. I know what I like. Jiu-jitsu has taught me that. Like there's different parts of your game that you have to work on, and each part of your game can constantly grow, but when looking at my abilities in SMP, like I'm very confident with how I teach and how I do the procedure. Where I lack is marketing. And so
My never-ending battle is marketing.
but
Seriously.
man, but I mean, even doing this podcast is a huge, huge way to like kind of up that marketing game, right? Because that definitely helps, right?
It's all part of my master plan, Cat.
Shh, don't.
No, but you're right. So I wanted to do a podcast. I thought about it for many years. I thought about starting the podcast, but I was like, you need the means. I need somebody to edit. That's costs money, time, all that sort of thing. But then I was like, you know what? I want to do in person and virtual podcasts, because this will also open up. Maybe I can't. Not everybody's bald, or not everybody wants to talk about SMP, right? Like you
Mhm.
do and I do. That's all, we live it. But let's say I get in here a guy who does comic books. I had a comic book guy in here. I had a neurologist in
Oh
here.
wow.
And so I had a guy from Squid Games who, and I have all these different people. And so business owners, then they'll talk about the podcast, and then eventually it comes back to SMP,
Oh,
because we're still not mainstream.
dude, I keep saying, man, whenever I teach a class, I always say you are getting into SMP at the perfect time, and it's not like a fake thing. I really believe it because no one knows what SMP is. And
Yeah.
the moment that The Rock walks into my studio and I do his his SMP, or like Joe Rogan, or
Yes.
one of these guys who is going to turn around and actually be open about it, like some major celebrity, it's game over for every single one of us who are actually good at SMP.
Oh my god. I said that I don't care who does the as long as they're a good artist. The Rock, Rogan, Jason Statham, somebody who will openly talk about it, it's gonna blow everybody up. You're
Seriously.
right.
It's
You're
gonna
right.
be because it's like right now learning SMP, buying Bitcoin in 2009, dude. Seriously, because everyone knows about eyebrows and lips and, all the different PMU things, but, like, to this day, when people ask me what I do and I tell them, they're like, "That's a thing?" Like, "That's really?" And then the next question is, "Do you have it?" So,
No, you're right. I love that analogy. It's just like Bitcoin because I hope you're right. I do, just like Bitcoin. I hope it keeps going up. I am a Bitcoin holder, guilty, Ethereum and all that. But you're right because as this gets more mainstream, because some people think, is it too saturated? I don't think it is. I think eventually people are just going to have to choose.
yeah. Too saturated, you mean in terms of, like, the artists and people being trained?
Yeah, the number of artists. Let me ask you about this real quick.
Yeah,
In all honesty, I'm not nothing against large classes. I did a large class with Jeff. Okay. I went to the not the scalp show. Was it the scalp show? What does he call it? The SMP Expo, the first one in Arizona. I took it with D Black and all those guys. And I had already trained with Jarrell. I'm a Jarrell
yeah.
guy and Dan Urenberg and all those guys. And I saw he did a different technique on the natural hairline, and I did learn something from it, and I did enjoy it. However, I already had years of experience and all this stuff. To me, large classes are good introductory classes, I would say. But to go from a large class, let's say there's 20, 25 people, there's 5 instructors or 3 instructors. I just don't know if the people would be truly ready to work on their own. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. Jeff and I think the largest class I've done was with Jeff in Canada. We had 21 students and it was just the 2 of us. And I think we had 7 models that day and I worked on like all 7 of them. It's like
That's a lot.
it was crazy, man. I don't recommend that. I'm confident that I could do that again. I don't prefer classes, like if I'm the only one teaching, like probably 10 people is solid. Like smaller amounts is even better because you get more personal time.
Get more
I
face time with the instructor,
More
right?
FaceTime, yeah. I I'm confident in my teaching style that I'm able to because teaching SMP wasn't the first thing that I taught. Like
Mhm.
I've taught many different things. I enjoy teaching because for me teaching is learning because someone will ask a question, for instance, in jiu-jitsu, someone asks, "Hey, how do you do this? How do you transition from rear naked choke to armbar?" It's like, "Oh, let me think about it. Okay, I put my right hand on the neck and then I underhook with the left." And you have to kind of step by step talk about your process and maybe a process that you never actually verbalized before, but now you're having to explain it to a student. And as you're explaining it, you're reinforcing it in your brain, but also maybe seeing a step that you didn't put words to before, and so you learn. And so for me, the reason I love teaching is because I actually love learning. And so I feel like I get better as an artist every time I teach.
I agree. I love that you said that.
Yeah. And so I think, yeah, going back to your question, like obviously it's always better to have more one-on-one time with the students, right? And at the end of the day, it's a 3-day class. So I always kind of start my classes by saying, "Hey, this is not a class the point of this class is not so that you could start your business on day 4. That's not the point of the class. The point of the class is for me to give you all the tools for you to practice in order to 3, 6, 9 months down the road, you can start your business because you have to get to a level where you're able to actually charge people money for this. But I'm giving you the tools to start your journey on teaching yourself, basically, because you're going to be practicing on melons, you're going to be doing freebies on models, all that stuff, like paying your dues. The students that turn around and just immediately start companies, it's a sketchy thing to me, and I never advise it.
I agree. I agree.
I always say you gotta take some time, and maybe you're a quick learner. It's kind of up to you, right? Like if your work is looking stellar immediately, then man, I'm not a hater. Get after it and go get it done. start your business, do what you got to do. But let's be real. This is not something you get good at overnight. You're going to have to do, you're going to get sick of honeydew melons. You know, you're going to have to do some freebies where may not look amazing at first, but it's part of the learning.
Everybody's got to go through that.
Everybody's got to go through it.
Now, those are really good points. Those are really good points. And I agree with you. It's not day 4, start your business, start charging money. It's really start practicing. Start practicing. And I like how you said you got to teach yourself, because that's kind of how I felt. I think a lot of people, because after you're the class, when it's you one-on-one with a person who's trusting you, you're basically teaching yourself.
You are.
You know?
You are. Yeah, you absolutely are. And it's because here's the thing. This is a class. This is a introductory class. It's not an internship. And an internship is completely different, where you have my first days working with Jeff. I would say probably the first 3 to 4 months was kind of like an internship, where he was just like, he would literally stand over me and he'd be like, nope. I'm like working on client. I love that guy, but he's very like a Ginsu knife, you know, it's just very straightforward. And you'd be like, nope, you're doing that wrong. Be like, okay, you know, maybe we can talk about that after my client leaves. But he caused me to get really good really fast. And then I would watch him while he's working. So I'd be watching him every day. I'd show up at the shop, even if I didn't have a client, and I'd just watch him work, and I'd ask him questions, and I was just a sponge. And so that was different. I got a different level of learning from Jeff than anybody else who takes a 3-day class.
Of course. Oh yeah. I mean, you were basically a mentorship.
Yeah, that was a true mentorship, you know. That was
By one of the best in the world.
Yeah. And so, you know, for me, that's why I have the career that I have now, is because of that time that I spent with him, you know, and was able to ask him all the questions and learn how to run the business, man. I mean, I only am able to do like to have my shop now because of everything that I learned, basically answering the calls, booking clients, all the behind the scenes stuff that you have to learn as a business owner. You know, I got to kind of test run it first by just being the guy that helps him do it, you know?
Yeah. Except now your money's on the line.
Now my money's on the line. Now it's my marketing dollars, right?
The never ending battle, man. It is a never ending battle. And I appreciate everything you said about my marketing and standing out from the crowd. I embarrass myself a lot, you know, but I'm just like, whatever. I think it's funny, or I think it might work. And I'm like, if I look stupid, I look stupid. People are still going to come to me. You know, that's how I think of it.
Man, I wouldn't even label it as embarrassing yourself. I would call it just being authentic, man. The one thing that I've learned in life is that the number one quality that I love in any person, male or female, is humility. Humility is the most underrated quality, I think, because anybody can puff up their chest and act like they're one thing, right? And martial arts will teach you real quick, man. You can't judge a book by its cover. Exactly. Like, man, doing jiu-jitsu, like there's dudes who walk into the school and they're like 300 pounds, and I'll freaking choke that dude out like quick. And then some skinny little 130-pound twerp walks in, straps on his tattered black belt, and will just destroy me. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, and so, but there's a humility that the little guy had that the big guy didn't have, because the big guy thought like, I'm big and strong and buff and I can, you know, handle this dude, and he gets worked. For me, seeing humility in people, humility allows you to be vulnerable. And when people are vulnerable, it gives courage to other people to also be vulnerable. And vulnerability is such a beautiful, refreshing thing in this age of Instagram and Facebook, where you don't know what's real and what's not, what's AI generated and are you even real? Is this like, am I talking to your friend? Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw a glitch. I'm sure your AI generated. But you get what I'm saying? It's like we live in a day where you don't know what's real.
You're 100% right. I saw a thing where this AI generated woman's making $11,000 a month. She's not even real.
So stupid. This is the world that we live in, right?
Oh,
This is the
it's
world.
just gonna get worse, people. It's just gonna get worse.
Yeah.
We're it's just in the beginning stages, and you're right, the humility nothing will humble you like getting choked out. You know, I wrestled for years, and I know all about getting choked,
Yeah.
and squeezed. It's intense. It's very intense. I've taken some BJJ's, classes, but I never stuck with it. I should now my big fear is hurting my wrist. I mean, if you're still going to BJJ, I mean, how do you feel about your wrist? Do you wrap it up, quadruple, put a metal
No,
bar on it?
I've done it for so long. It's like, no, and the thing is you just you have to practice humility even at this level. It took me 14 years to get my black belt.
Oh, you're a black belt?
Yeah.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
That is so fucking hard. People listen to this. Getting a black belt in BJJ is like getting a doctorate. It really is. It takes so many hours, so many in years to get that. Good for you, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, and what I'm saying is that even at this stage, you still have to practice. You have to practice humility even more because you don't want to get caught up in like, oh, I'm not gonna tap because I'm a black belt. Like, dude, I have to work tomorrow. If you're locking up an armbar on me, I'm tapping, man. Like, I got to go to work and provide for my family. It'd be different if I was training to be in the UFC, right? That's different because then you got to there's a different level of intensity. For me, I do jiu-jitsu because I've loved it for so long. I started in 2005. I've loved it for so long before it was cool.
Yeah.
And it's just been a part of my journey, and I've learned so much from it. But humility is probably the biggest thing that I've learned from it, because if you're not good at losing in jiu-jitsu, you will not last. Because you'll come in and get choked out by like a eighth grade girl and then walk home feeling like half the man you were before you walked in there.
Have you ever trained with any high profile individuals?
High profile, like celebrities or like
Yeah, yeah,
fighters?
like rolled with them. Or any of them.
Well, my professor himself, he's kind of a legend in the sport because do you know who Shogun Hua is?
Of course.
From okay, so Shogun Hua got his black belt from my professor. My
What's your
professor,
professor's name?
Nino Shembri. So Nino Shembri, he used to fight in Pride back in the day, like in Japan. It was like the Japanese version of UFC. And so he had a couple fights in Pride, but before that, he was the jiu-jitsu coach for Shogun, for like
Hooah!
he rolled with the Nogueira brothers, and he was like the jiu-jitsu coach for a lot of the Brazilian guys. I know he helped Vanderlei. He's friends with Anderson Silva, like just all those guys. And his jiu-jitsu is at a very, very high level. Like when I train with him, I'll put it this way. When I roll with most black belts, I feel like a black belt. I feel like, okay, you're going to catch me, or I'm going to catch you. And it's like, okay, I feel good. When I train with my professor, I'm like, is this my first day doing jiu-jitsu? Because you just like treated me like I just walked in the door as a brand new white belt and I don't even know how to tie my belt. He's just on a different level. And so that's the thing that intrigues me about jiu-jitsu so much, is that you're never going to learn it all. And so you just have to keep pushing, keep improving your game, different parts of your game. My wrestling, by the way, sucks. So you could teach me a lot about that. And so, that's a different part of my game that I haven't even really addressed yet. But it is a beautiful way to learn how to lose.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
It's like the only difference between a white belt and a black belt is a black belt just kept showing up.
Yeah,
Anybody could become a black belt. It's just going to take time and consistency.
and doing it when you don't want to, right? And
I
and
had one
training.
rule. So I had one rule, and my rule was, or the only time I had to go to jiu-jitsu was the days that I didn't want to go. That was my rule. So I'd get home from work, right? I'd get home from freaking doing engineering and looking at Boeing drawings all day long, and I'd be like, my brain's fried, and I'd sit down on the couch, and I like want to go crack open a beer or something, and I'm like, I don't want to go to class tonight. And soon as the words come out of my mouth, I'm like, damn it. So I get up.
Hey, that's
Well,
discipline.
yeah,
That's discipline. How do you feel about Gordon Ryan?
he's on a level. So what I think about Gordon Ryan is first that his secret power is John Danaher.
Yeah.
John Danaher, for those of you who don't know, was the coach for guys like GSP, but he's known in the martial arts community as one of the, if not the greatest mind in martial arts.
He's like a real genius.
He's a legit genius. He was a philosophy major from New Zealand, right? And he came to New York in the early 90s or late 80s, early 90s to go to school for philosophy. He ends up becoming a bouncer at a bar where they were showing these early UFC fights. He gets all like stoked on the idea of this skinny little guy named Hoist Gracie, choking out these guys 2-3 times his size, and ends up finding Renzo Gracie and learning Brazilian Jiu Jitsu from Renzo Gracie, gets his black belt under Renzo Gracie, and then applies all of his Professor X genius into Jiu Jitsu, learning Jiu Jitsu and teaching it. And that guy has produced literal world champions, both in UFC and now in just straight jiu-jitsu. And I think I know he is, because Gordon is straightforward about it. He talks about
He's open.
He's open about it. So he's the real genius. But now, in the same way, we teach SMP, students are only going to go as far as they take it, right? And so Gordon, man, hats off to that dude, because I've followed him since the very beginning, since he was like a purple belt. And because I started noticing him, he would pop up on YouTube and Instagram and whatnot, and I would see like just that he was starting to win like these competitions super early. And it was back when the Danaher Death Squad had a bunch of guys, Eddie Cummings and all those different dudes, and he was just a standout. Now he's on a different planet. That guy is on a different planet. Yeah, for sure. He would be, for sure. If I rolled with that guy, he would mop the floor with me. 100%.
I was just saying, I just wish John would get SMP.
Dude, I've DM'd him. John Danaher. I DM'd him. I'm like, hey, I'm a Nino Chambry Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. Like, I would love to hook you up. Like, he never
for free.
Yeah, he never responded. Yeah, because that would be huge, man. Like if John Danaher got SMP, it would be huge in the SMP world. There's so many guys. I've hit up quite a few actually known bald as jiu-jitsu black belts. I can't say his name yet, but one's kind of like thinking about it. So we'll see.
Good. Keep pushing it, man. Keep pushing it. I think any big profile or anybody who's got a little bit of pool who gets SMP is only going to help us all. It's only going to help us all.
Exactly. A lot of people ask me, why is it that I train people? Don't I feel like I'm training my competition, And I say, my answer to that is SMP is not super known yet. And a lot of what it's known for is bad work. And I want to do my job to ensure that there are good artists out there giving us all a good name. And so if one of my students or one of your students who does great work gets noticed by someone, it's only going to raise the tide for all of us in the industry. Because if there are people out there who are bad teachers and they're producing horrible students who do crappy work, it's going to hurt us. So for me, it's like, hey, someone's going to train them. And I want to make sure that I at least do my part to help ensure that there are good up and coming artists out there that give the entire industry a good name.
I love that. You're right. Everything you said, spot on. All right, Kat. So we're going to start wrapping this up. We went 42 minutes over, but that's okay. I could have kept going another hour and a half, kept talking about, everything. We'll have to do it again. How can people find you? What's your contact information?
Inkheads, INKHDZ. That's me on Instagram, but also inkheads.com. Those are the two best ways to get a hold of me, whether it's procedures or training. And I'm easily accessible, and you're going to talk to me like I'm a straightforward guy. I don't have somebody else like my AI secretary that's going to be talking to you.
I love that. That's a big deal, because I message people and I'll get that, and I get why they do that, but sometimes it could be annoying to me personally. Okay, that was great. So stay on here, Kat.